cannot erase you. But if you want, babe, we can take it real slow. Try to feel what we used to. And like the first time we was in love, we can be how we wanna be. And if you realize never enough, well, let me be your fantasy, your fantasy. Let me be your fantasy. Let me be your fantasy.
All right, guys. So, hello. As you may know, we at Conceptor started a series of webinars where hardware startup founders and experts share their knowledge and help us founders and people who want to start their business build the right business model, raise some funding, do the products that people would love, and do everything to promote our business globally and probably exit this business sometime. So our next expert came to Kyiv just for the short trip, and we are so lucky that he is in Kyiv right now. So please welcome Yaroslav Azhnyuk, co-founder and CEO at Petcube.
Hey,
Hi.
thank you.
So yeah, this is event about like how to raise some money for the hardware startup, and maybe I guess you can present us pitch us your pitch deck and show how you pitch investors actually.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
can you do that?
Yeah. Доброго вечора. Дякую, що прийшли. Good evening and thank you for coming. So, I love events like this because for me, events like this were very inspirational and helped me to meet people and learn some ideas that then were fundamental for creating what my co-founders and I built with Petcube so far. I think it's really important that we're having events like that. So thanks, Vlad. Thanks, Conceptor, everyone. I hope that there will be more events like that and more founders who share their experience. Hopefully, I am sure that out of people who sit here in the audience, we'll have at least a dozen fantastic companies over the next 5 years. And those companies will be sharing their experiences and helping all the aspiring entrepreneurs to shorten their route. So anyhow, we have this deck here. I hope you can see it well. So these are some of the slides that we use when we speak about the business to our investors. And I'll show you some slides. I'll talk about what Petcube is as a company today. Some of you might have heard something about us. Hopefully you won't be bored. There's more stuff that you didn't hear. So let's get it started. So at Petcube we have a mission. It's to connect pets to the internet and give them a voice. And when we say give them a voice, what we mean is understanding pets by using all the video data that we get from hundreds of thousands of cameras we've sold, applying computer vision to identify pets in those videos, and then applying machine learning, some of the algorithms that are known, the broad term of AI, to understand how the pet feels, maybe what the pet wants. You can understand things like if your pet has certain kind of behavior, and then suddenly the behavior is different, maybe the pet is sick. So connect pets to the internet and give them a voice. And I'd like to start with this short video and I'll be speaking through the video, so if we can adjust sound so that we can hear both the video and me. But that's basically the video about products we have. And it starts with an app. Our app allows people to share photos and videos of their pets, control their Petcube cameras, and also share Petcube cameras with other people, like this. So this is one of Petcube cameras. Someone looks at the camera to look at some shelter pets. And you can share cameras, you can share photos and videos, you can share it to Instagram and Facebook. There are a number of services now on the platform that you can use, such as insurance. This is a product called Petcube Play, the camera with a laser. Allows you to play with cats and dogs remotely and see and talk to them. And there's also night vision, so you can see them in the night. This is Petcube Bites. Allows you to fling treats from the camera and also see and talk to your pets. And this is Petcube. So these videos, we make them completely in-house. We actually have a very, very talented videographer who's part of our team full-time. And all the videos from Petcube you were seeing over the last year or even more were created completely in-house. We have an amazing team of about 6 designers headed by my co-founder, Andrei Klan, who's our chief design officer. And as some of you might know, Petcube idea was started by Alex Neskin, who's a co-founder and chief technology officer. So in terms of revenue, I basically blurred the numbers here, but basically company is making blurred some of the numbers. Yeah, company is making kind of tens of millions in revenue, and sold actually 150,000 is the latest number we've disclosed. It's been a while. I mean, I think we can say hundreds of thousands of cameras. The products we've had, Petcube camera, Petcube Play, Petcube Bytes. These are hardware products. But there is also this software product called Petcube Care. So Petcube Care is the service that allows people to save videos of what their camera sees in the cloud and then access those videos later. And I'll talk about that. And then there is a bunch of stuff we're launching this year that we're not talking about. So Petcube Bytes, again, looks like this, works like this. You put some treats inside, and then you fling from your phone, and it basically flings a treat. And there are something like 3 different modes. You can fling them fast, or like far away, or at shorter distance. With Petcube Bytes, what's really interesting is how much people use the device. So we sell it for $249. An average person dispenses $200 worth of treats per year using their Petcube Bytes. We are not selling the treats, but by just having those devices like in the user base, we are helping companies that are selling treats to sell more treats. If you can imagine, having 1 million Petcube Bytes out there, this is additional $200 million in treats. And why I say additional, it's not replacing the existing consumption of treats. It is incremental because now you can treat your pet when you are not at home, which was previously impossible. Treats, actually, for those of you who are not in pet care market, which is most of you, treats are different from food. So food is food, and treats are like candies. You basically treat your dog with it. So this is a really interesting opportunity. We just launched Petcube Bytes in August last year. We're seeing this opportunity with food. We're working with a number of pet food brands. We're partnered with this company called Wellness, which is a $1 billion company, US-based manufacturer of premium pet food and treats. And when you buy Petcube Bytes, inside of it there is a bag of dog treats and a bag of cat treats. We've observed that that drove the market share of this brand called Wellness significantly. It's like off the charts of all the expectations. So this is a really interesting business. Petcube Play obviously is our original camera with a laser pointer. Allows you to play with cats and dogs remotely by moving the laser. Looks like that. Really cool. People love it. Cats love it. Children love it. Lots of fun. Really interesting numbers is the interaction numbers. So we sell Play for $199 in retail. The numbers on engagement, 80% of people who have installed their cameras over the last year were using it last month. This is more than GoPros. This is more than Fitbits. This is more than home security cameras. This is probably around the same numbers as devices like Alexa have. This is like amazing engagement. And what this means actually is that people are using this device not as a security camera. They're using it as a smartphone. Petcube is a smartphone for pets. So people are using it to call their pet to check if everything is okay. And on average, they're spending 50 minutes per week talking to their pets. This is more than average person spends per week talking to their parents. They're making 11 calls per week, right? And it's like, your parents can call you if something happens, but your pet cannot call you. So pets are basically like babies. And that's why people like every day they go to work and they check on their pet multiple times to make sure the pet is all right, to treat them, to play with them, to show their friends and colleagues, whatnot. So these are amazing numbers. We were super happy when, as the company was growing, at some point someone was like, hey, let's check what this stat is. And then we're like, whoa, like 50 minutes. It looks kind of like a lot. Yeah, this is cool. And and then we were asking ourselves, well, why didn't we look at these metrics before? So sometimes when you have a company that's growing, you basically you are in a point where you have some really cool stats, but you yourself don't know about the existence of those stats. So be aware of that. So interesting thing about Petcube Care, this is one of our most promising products now. This is this monthly fee of $5, $10, or $25. Video history, 3, 10, or 30 days. And then it also has benefits. So benefits is our partnerships with a number of pet services and brands that give exclusive offers only to people who are monthly subscribers of Care Service. So what are these brands? They're Rover.com for dog walking, gives you about $50 in credit. Trupanion, the best pet insurance, $50 to $100 credit or 1 month of free insurance for your dog or cat. Companies like Whistle, now owned by Mars. Audible by Amazon gives free books about dogs and cats for people who subscribe using our link. Oli makes human-grade food for pets, and we're adding even more next month. Actually, yeah, it's going to be a really big announcement. Yeah, like huge partners, kind of billion dollar companies. And even here, like there are maybe like I don't know $3 or $4 billion companies as partners, depending on how you count. And like I guess like this is supposed to be half pitch and half sharing some ideas for other entrepreneurs. So speaking to the second half, just like don't think that those huge billion-dollar companies are unreachable. You can be a relatively small-ish company and partner up with someone like Amazon or Mars, which is a huge enterprise or whatnot. So the numbers on Petcube Care, I'm not sharing like the exact numbers, but I'm sharing the curves of the graphs. Some of the graphs we're looking at, paid users, monthly recurring revenue, the percentage of paid users as of active devices, and the conversion rate of people who buy the device to people who subscribe. Fortunately for us, all of these metrics currently are trending really well. We're using that in pitching the investors, of course. It's an average growing 25% month over month. It's like independently of hardware, it's a very lucrative business model. I mean, hardware is kind of risky. You need a lot of capital to buy it, and then before you sell it, you have this cash flow gap, and so on, and you're not sure if you'll get the same revenue next month or next year. With the recurring revenue, it's very predictable, much less risks. So that's why VCs, and we'll talk more about fundraising today, they love recurring revenue, they love software as a service model, and for reasons, again, we'll mention later, they pretty much hate hardware. Yeah, I would strongly advise you to not choose to start a hardware company as your first company. So some numbers on pet care, that's what we show. Like in the US, it's a well-growing market. In China, the market doubled in the last 3 years from $15 to $30 billion. A really interesting market. In terms of competition, so it would be kind of tempting to compare ourselves to other pet cameras on the market because that's where we are winning. That's where we are number one. But we're trying not to do that. Actually, the competition you compare yourself towards is what are the other products what the other products people use instead of buying your product. And for us, this is mainly just general security cameras like Nest or Ring. So it's kind of, yeah, when I want to kind of pump the team up, I tell them that, you know, we're competing against Google. And everyone's like, yeah, we can do it. So Ring, obviously now owned by Amazon. These guys, they make great security cameras. They don't have any features for pets. The stats we know tell that 50% of people who own security cameras use them mostly to watch pets. So that's kind of an opportunity we're leveraging. Petcube cameras, just as great as these guys in terms of cameras and image quality and so on, but we have very specific features for pet owners such as treat dispensing and laser and a number of AI-powered features that are coming soon, but were announced. And then there are other cameras on the market, but they are smaller than us in terms of sales. They have fewer features. They're mono-product companies, and they're just slower. More numbers on sales and lots of edited stuff, but we're in over 3,000 stores currently, including these chains: Best Buy, huge consumer electronics chain in the U.S., Petco, Bed Bath & Beyond. We're launched with SoftBank retail chain in Japan. All these are pretty exciting. And all of them are, again, achievable, right? Someone might think, okay, this is impossible. These are like such big companies. No, it's actually, it wasn't that hard. You can also see there is a big spike in sales in fourth quarter. So as you know, fourth quarter is Black Friday and Christmas, and lots of gifting happening in the United States, especially. Our main market is in the United States. About 90% of our sales coming from the United States currently. What is happening is there are three reasons why we have peaks in Q4. One is gifting season. Another is that we always launch new hardware products before Q4, because when you launch a product, you have a wave of press, and then you're fresh in consumer memory, and then when they think about what they should buy for a present on Christmas, they choose your product. And the third reason, every time we launch a new product, we use this event to launch in more distribution chains and more stores, and that again boosts the sales in Q4. Actually, it's bad to have seasonal sales, and every company should try to do not have seasonality, because that again brings more risks and more trouble. So the team currently is 62 people, or about that, plus or minus. 12 of us are in San Francisco, 46 are in Kiev here, and then 4 are in Shenzhen in China, where we have manufacturing. San Francisco, mostly sales and marketing, and some senior people that we weren't able to find here in Ukraine. Like our VP of engineering is kind of based in San Francisco, but spends, I don't know, about 1/3 of his year in Kiev. We were fortunate to hire a pretty amazing executive team with tens of years of experience. Chris, head of sales; Vivian, chief marketing officer; Michael Tamer was CFO; Saldi Anthony, VP of engineering; Alex Davidenko is our VP of operations here in Ukraine; Misko Zamba is a principal engineer, and we acquired his company a year ago. I could be telling about all of them for a while. Misko is probably a remarkable guy. He is Slovak by heritage. He grew up and was educated in Toronto in Canada, and that's where he studied in Toronto University. That's the university where all the breakthrough in AI was happening over the last 6-10 years, whatnot. Misko has a degree in computational biology, which is basically genetics and computer science. And he was doing things like working on debugging some supercomputers in India, or being part of a human genome decoding project. And he was working this company called Atomwise that was using machine learning to find cures for some world's most dangerous diseases. And then in his spare time, he was doing this thing called PetBot, which was basically a couple years ago was a similar device to what Petcube Bytes is, a camera with a treat dispenser. And Misko was able to single-handedly, as one engineer, working for about 3 years in his evenings and weekends, to build a device that was PetBot, that was functioning. So he did mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, industrial design. He did Android app. He made iOS app. He made video streaming. He made all the backend. He made all the firmware for that device. He made computer vision that would recognize his cat's face. He ran an Indiegogo campaign. He found a manufacturer. This is 11th Finger. And then he basically went through all the manufacturer process, launched like 500 of those devices. And when we approached him to acquire his company, he was sitting and answering support tickets. So Mishko is an amazing engineer, but he was so much in love with engineering that he forgot about like the business piece, or he wasn't able to find good partners. And he is like the computer science genius that is passionate about his cats. He has 2 cats. He always wears like a cat T-shirt. It's like this amazing character, and I think like the reason why I'm talking about this so much is, like for me, the one of the biggest joys of working in this creative economy and like making these products is working with people like Mishko, yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like Saldi is the guy coming from Amazon and Dolby, like a bunch of other companies, Vivian, Sony, Electronic Arts, Chris, Pepsi, L'Oreal. All of them are amazing people that I keep learning from, and all the team keeps learning from. And it's actually easier to hire amazing people once you have a bunch of people with lots of experience. So that's team. Anyhow, the logic is obviously more experience, like management. Anyone whom we can't find here in Ukraine is in the States. Here in Ukraine, our powerhouse for engineering. Yeah, I think. I mean, it's really amazing that we have this ecosystem that we have super talented engineers, one of the best kind of raw talent in the world, and then they get paid really high as by Ukrainian standard, but it's still like 5 times less than engineers are paid in Silicon Valley. So if you can sell your products in the global market but manufacture it locally, you're in a huge advantage. But still, people who are making their like engineering salaries here have much better lives than people who are earning 5 times more but like paying taxes and paying super expensive living expenses in the US. So it's this paradox, and I don't know how much this will last, but it's a huge opportunity we have. Yeah, so I mean, basically, if you're a company doing something like that, when your competitor that has engineers in the US launches 1 feature, you can launch 5 features, and that's really an unfair advantage. And this is pretty much it. A couple words about our growth plans. Like really big focus for us now is as Petcube Care and increasing the value of our recurring revenue part of our business. And big part of that is going to be what we call behavioral diagnostics. Now, I spoke about it at the beginning a little bit, how we can identify different behavioral patterns. We work with a number of pet scientists to do that, and there is actually lots of science that is not productized in pet space. I'm sure in almost any space, if you dig into what scientists are working on, there are a bunch of amazing things. If you can productize that, bring that to consumers, that's a business opportunity for sure. Another thing is, let's call it another hardware product that is, its goal is to expand the user base and get millions and millions of customers who are connecting their pets to the internet using our devices. And we really think Petcube is kind of like an iPhone for pets, or a smartphone for pets. And the third thing is another recurring revenue product. Obviously for VCs, when I show slides like this, they also have some other slides that I'm not showing today. This is not redacted, that this has more substance, but that kind of gives you a clue of what like a Series B kind of pitch deck could look like. And this is pretty much it. The summary is, we're reinventing pet care. We have the best-in-class products. We have created this category of connected pet. We are disrupting a 70 billion pet care market, big opportunity. We definitely have strong sales, have a big retail presence, the only pet camera in retail. So the cameras have really good cumulative annual growth rate over 4 years. It's almost 200%, which means like an average, we were almost like tripling year over year. Hundreds of thousands cameras sold. Care, the second piece of the business, growing 25% month over month. Food, really big opportunity. Lots of treats have been dispensed through Petcube Bites, and there are many opportunities to partner with some big pet food brands. Petcube is recognized as leading pet brand. Emma Watson said that Petcube is her favorite app, which was really cool and surprising for us. We have partnered with Universal for the Secret Life of Pets movie 2 years ago. And some amazing things like that were happening. Definitely experienced team, ability to attract some of the top talent. And something I really want VCs to understand is that we're not a camera company, that we're a technology company connecting pets to the internet. That's kind of like really a cliche to look at hardware companies and say that they will fail. We obviously didn't fail, have no plans to fail or failing. Yeah, I guess this is it, just to give you a clue for where we are now as a company, and also some, just an example of a Series B pitch deck. I don't know if it's going to be successful or not, but anyhow, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, I guess chairs should be coming up here. So you said that investors don't like when you don't like camera companies.
They don't like hardware companies, period.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you want to? What's the right positioning as the hardware company to get investors on board?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be like true to yourself. Like investors don't like hardware companies for a reason, not because investors are bad, because they've seen many hardware companies fail, and they understand certain reasons why those companies fail. And I think one of the reasons why we were able to get further in this race than some companies that did fail. I think there are two reasons. One is to build a hardware company, as you know, you need much more engineers, much more resource than just building like a software product. And people who start that in Silicon Valley and hire all of their people in Silicon Valley, their burn rate becomes astronomically high very, very fast. And then when their first sales projections don't quite go as planned, they are in a very difficult situation after that, right? So what helped us to avoid that fate is that our burn rate was relatively modest because of most of the engineering in Ukraine. So I think in this extent, Ukraine is better positioned to build hardware businesses than like a company or an entrepreneur born in Silicon Valley. And also some Chinese-based or entrepreneurs with ties with China have obviously good chances of building a hardware company. That's one thing. Another thing is, if you can remember that slide when I was talking about the engagement. So many hardware products are products that someone launches and then someone buys, and then people stop using it. It's just like they play with it for a while and then they stop using it. I think we got lucky because, we got lucky with our insight. When we were starting, we didn't know all of this. It's not like we were so smart, It's like we were reasonably assuming this is something people would want to use. And yes, it appears people are using it as projected as a phone for their pet and using it all the time. And that drives two things. That drives people keep kind of talking about that product with their friends and family and so on. That's how you have word of mouth marketing. And that's why other people are buying it. And the second piece is basically you have a platform that people keep using, so you can include some recurring revenue services like we did with Petcube Care when we were charging people $10 a month, and that is working because people keep using the devices.
Okay, so you said that like it was not so smart when you started out, but still you found first investments and you got some fuel to start that engine working. Can you tell us about that, how it was?
Yeah. I guess my point is that that there's probably much more luck in all this entrepreneurship than many are willing to admit. And when you are starting, you have no idea how it's going to work out, how hard it's going to be, and so on and so on. So probably if we knew at least a little bit of what we're getting into, we would not have started a company. We would be just too afraid. So it's like, Yeah. But to your question about how we fundraise historically, I mean our history of fundraising is long. We started a company 5.5 years ago, and then we started like it was September-ish. We thought it will take us about 2 months to film a video for Kickstarter and launch and make money on Kickstarter. And then, well, the idea was actually less in making money, more in kind of validating if people really need it, and if people need it, we'll have money to implement it. Well, that assumption about 2 months was wrong. It took us 14 months to launch a Kickstarter campaign. We had to figure out first how do we actually make those devices. We had no experience in manufacturing any hardware or even designing any hardware. So those 14 months, we had to eat something. So we left our full-time jobs. I think I left my job immediately. My co-founders were still working for about half a year, then they also left their jobs. We had some savings, about maybe 10 to 12 to $15,000 each. So we basically put all of our savings, not in the most organized fashion, but we basically were eating from our banks and occasionally paying for some trips or for some tooling or for some third-party contractors. So we burned through all in total about $40,000 in the first maybe 9 months, and then we were able to fundraise some angel funding, about $70,000 from an angel investor called Semyon Dukic from Boston. He currently has a fund, great friend of ours. And then also from this hardware accelerator called HAX. And that's how we got into Chinese acceleration program. HAX is Irish-American accelerator, but they run by a French guy, and they have their program in China. So that's how we went to Shenzhen. We spent 4 months living in Shenzhen, still 3 of us, hired maybe 2 first people here in Kiev. And during that time, we were preparing our Kickstarter campaign. And then we launched Kickstarter 2013, and Kickstarter collected $250,000 in pre-sales. That's not investment, that's pre-sales. And the funny thing is we went to this HAX demo day to San Francisco when the Kickstarter money finally hit our account. And we didn't know exact day when the money will hit. We knew it's gonna happen. We knew it's like about $250,000. But we basically took our last $3,000 in ATM from our bank account just to have some money to buy lunch. And that was it. That was like zero on bank account. And evening of that day, we got like another $250,000. So that was crazy. Yeah. I mean, another crazy moment we had, not fundraising, but before that, is like talking about the moments of despair. It probably was winter of 2012 to 13, and Alex Naskin and I were really in despair. We weren't able to find factory in Ukraine. We were so sad. We gathered in a cafe, Alex, Andre, and I. And it's like Alex and I started talking about, well, this is not going well. We should probably like stop this business. This is too hard. It's impossible. We won't be able to make it. And it was after New Year, and Andre was looking at us, and he was like, "You guys are crazy." And he was like, he took this business cards and business card holder that looks like this. It's hexagon, and he said, "Look what I made for everyone for Christmas or for New Year's. It's a gift." So he took 6 card holders like that, put them on the table. And was like, "That's for us." And like immediately they changed the color in the room, and everyone was like, "Yeah, we're gonna make it, yes." So I think like emotional and leadership things like that are super important, and like literally that moment he saved the company by just doing that. And also like that's how important the emotional and design and aesthetical part is. It really, like, when something is beautiful, it defines the way you look at things. I mean, engineers are amazing. I'm an engineer myself, but designers are also amazing. So anyhow, fundraising, I'll give a quick summary. After the Kickstarter, we lived for another half a year. we ran out of money. Basically, I was in San Francisco. It was 2014. Here we had a war starting, Russia next Crimea. We had Maidan. Like everyone was in real stress. And we had this moment where I basically called the team from San Francisco, and like obviously we had some like discussions with Andre and Alex before. I called the team and said, okay, like I'm not being able to raise the money we need. Our product is not launching in May as planned. We'll only be able to launch in kind of September, October. We don't have enough money. We still have some sales coming from the website, but basically we either have to fire half of the team and then we will not be able to deliver any product, or we have to cut the salaries in half for everyone. And I basically said that we're cutting the salaries in half starting from the month after this, and this month is the last one when we'll pay all the salaries to everyone. If you decide to leave, we will leave the company, we will understand. If you stay, we will keep the salary you didn't receive like on your balance, and we'll pay you back once we can. And fortunately, and thank you for all those people, all the team of 15 people stayed. And we went through that crazy summer, like with all the crazy events happening in Ukraine, like no one knowing if we'll see like Russian tanks in Kiev one day. And we went through that, and then we were able to fundraise. And Ukrainian fund A Ventures was our first like institutional investor. So there was a round that was 1.1 million, was broken down by two parts, but that's details. So we had A Ventures and then Almaz Capital Investing. And that was really very important moment for the company. And then we shipped the product. So then it got easier. We shipped the product. We started having some sales. Investors saw some traction. They were feeling better. I thought it would be easier to fundraise. It wasn't easier to fundraise. It's never easier. Every next round, at least in our experience, it's always harder. So after that, it was like 1.1 million, and like year after, we raised another 2.6, and together with that, we got accepted into Y Combinator. From our fourth try, we got accepted. We had to spend lots of energy to persuade our investors that we should actually agree and become part of Y Combinator program. It wasn't easy, but we did it. And then another probably 2 years later, we raised this $10 million Series A. It was last August. We announced it later in the autumn. And I'm fundraising now as well. So it's kind of I don't want to say the constant process. I think that this current round is going to be the final one for us, or it's like the final for a long time. Maybe. But yeah, I mean, definitely happy to answer questions on fundraising.
Yeah. How big is this round going to be?
The one we're raising now, we'll see. There are different options, but maybe around $20 million.
So you're in fundraising mode right now?
Basically all the time for the last 5 years.
So how much time do you allocate for this type of job?
I mean, in terms of my daily schedule, it's like most of the time. It's like
90%.
Yeah.
How about managing the team and?
Yeah, I mean, the processes they're there, so I do not sacrifice any of those processes. How much of my time goes to manage the team? It's hard to say in percentage. I mean, I can say in hours. I have basically. Yeah, maybe like 7 one-on-one calls or like status calls, and then 1 big call with the management team. So yeah, the 7 is like maybe 7 takes less than 7 hours, maybe 5 hours, and then another hour and a half, maybe 7 hours a week I spend in like status meetings managing the team, and maybe some ad hoc meetings. I don't think it's more than 15 hours per week. And like my weeks for the last maybe half a year are pretty consistently about 90 hours. Yeah,
90 hours.
like actually working time. So I was surprised I was able to keep that rhythm for so long. Before that, I was able to do like, 3 weeks you work like crazy, like 80 to 90 hours, and then you burn out, and like for another week or two, you basically like. was like a piece of I don't know cloth.
Wow.
But I mean,
You're still looking good, actually.
thank you, thank you. Like I had like 4 hours of sleep for the last 5 days, like every night. But I know it's not good for you. I
crazy.
think you should have like at least 6 or 7 hours of sleep. But I mean, other things. I think if you balance your um, emotional energy and if you eat well and if you do some physical activity and if you keep to the schedule, then you can. So basically, the things that you hear about Silicon Valley entrepreneurs like Marissa Mayer working crazy hours or Elon Musk working crazy hours, those are not lies. That's like these people are actually doing that, and it's possible to develop. But don't go crazy and expect that you might have burnouts on the way there if you decide to follow this path.
Wow. So you said that you raised money when you had some difficulties in your team. You cut the salaries.
Yeah.
So, but you still managed to get that investments.
We
What was
paid
your
them back.
Yeah. So, what was your secret sauce? How you made that?
I don't know. I think it's they say it's numbers game. So you just have to try and try and try and try and try until it works. And what happens by trying, usually, if you not just try but try to improve something, you keep improving. So it's also an iterational process. You as you pitch your business, you can improve your pitch. Your business grows. You improve your business, which is actually much more important than improving your pitch. So I'm not sure if we are doing this right, actually. So I think the right way to do it is to know very well how investors think and fundraise in the moment when you are ready to fundraise, when you know that, okay, with this kind of pitch and with this kind of business, I will go to these like 3 to 10 investors. I'll tell them my story. I'll have my 2 to 5 term sheets, and I'll choose the one I like best, and that will be Sequoia or Andreessen Horowitz. And I won't spend any more time on fundraising. That's kind of how it should be, supposed to be. I know very few entrepreneurs who've did that, and for vast majority entrepreneurs, it's struggle. And for vast majority of those for whom it's struggle, they lose it because maybe because they give up too early. So, I think like almost universally in Silicon Valley, 2 qualities of engineer or of entrepreneur everyone agrees on are super important are curiosity and perseverance or determination, right? How's like you're not gonna give up. And like to have that, it's usually good to be in this business for something more than money.
I would like to dig deep inside this process of fundraising, and you said that you had a brilliant co-founders team, and they help you along the road. And I can see that 3 people that founded the company, they still C-level people, even though like you're raising even more money and more people, like really experienced people that had more experience than you coming to your company. So what was the equity distribution? Did you do that right? And
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't disclose the equity numbers, but I think it's like, yeah, we were thinking that the equity should be more or less evenly split between 3 people that were starting the company, and I think it depends. I think there might be scenarios where you have founders who are disproportionate. Like you have one founder who have built and sold the business before and is like super experienced, has a big network, but he lacks certain expertise in certain area, and he gets this another guy as a co-founder. So maybe their equity will not be even in this scenario, or you often have scenarios where someone invests some initial capital in the company. So then again, but I think that it's important to agree on that equity split very early on, and like agree that no one has any questions after everyone agreed, and never return to that question again. That's how it was for us. And what was the second part?
Yeah, basically, I want to dig. Then investors come to this
Yeah.
game, and how is it working? How that worked in Petcube?
Well, I mean, the way investing happens is you have like a company. The company has 1,000 shares to make it simple, and then the investor comes and wants to buy whatever 10% of the company, and then you issue another like 111 shares or something like that, so that this number of shares is 10% of the cumulative number of 1,111 shares. And then all the founders that had their shares, or it's actually not shares per se, but usually founders have their vesting schedule going on, and they only get shares after certain period of 4 years, so that you don't have situation when basically you found a company with someone, give them half of the company, and then the next day they decided to leave while still owning half of the company, which is not cool. So that's how vesting works. But then investors, they come in, they give you some money, they get some shares. Now the cumulative amount of shares is more than it was when you started the company, and then as a result of that, each founder owns, not if two founders, it's not 50-50, but it's less. Each is basically what's called diluted by 10%. So instead of 50, they own 45, and then another 10% owned by investor.
Okay, and then next investor.
And then next investor, and like next investor will dilute the founders and the previous investor. And so you have this document called cap table, short for capitalization table, and that's where you have the list of who owns how many shares, and also obviously you usually allocate some option pool to incentivize your employees, and this is something that's very standard in Silicon Valley. You basically have most of the companies, all the employees have certain option, stock option, which means option is the right to buy company shares at a fixed price. And the price is fixed at the moment where a person joins the company. So for example, if someone joins like a Series A startup that is valued $10 million, and they get some, say 1%, if it's like someone like VP of something, marketing, they get 1% option that vests within 4 years. Let's say 4 years after that, the company is being sold for 300 million. The person who owned 1%, they will need to pay what 1% would cost at 10 million valuation, which would be what, $100,000. They would have to pay that money to get the shares, but then since the company just was sold for 300 million, basically they'll be able to sell this 1%. If it wasn't diluted, then well, okay, let's get more realistic. 1% was diluted by like Series B, Series C investment, and it's now not 1%, 0.6. In this scenario, you have 0.6 of 300 million, which is something like 1/8, and certain number of zeros. I assume it's going to be like 18 million, right? Yeah, it's going to be no. 1.8 million. 1.8 million is what this VP of engineering would earn, and then basically 1.8 minus 100,000, 1.7, and then they would pay some taxes on top of that. So they would get, I don't know, yeah, like 8.5, whatever, 8-9 million, yeah, about $1 million, 900,000. But that's kind of the math that is happening in the heads of top executives in Silicon Valley when they decide joining the company, and that's why like there are many stories like that of people who are early employees in Google or Facebook becoming millionaires. While taking very little risk and actually getting their salary paid monthly or twice a month. So because of that, in Silicon Valley, option grants are very highly regarded. In Ukraine, I think, or in any kind of even European or Eastern European countries, there is less of understanding of the value of option pool because there is less experience and success stories. I'm sure in Estonia people are very good with shares because they had Skype, they had lots of amazing companies there. But yeah, long story short, what we decided in Petcube that we want to give options to each and every employee. So I think it's like the first time I'm saying this publicly, but like every person in Petcube has Petcube stock.
Oh.
Yeah.
So like the more you raise, the more investors want from the company, like not just shares, but also control. Do you allocate some board seats, and how does it work in your company?
Yeah, it's very negotiational. So whenever you have a deal, investment deal, there are two parts of the deal: economics and control, and both are kind of equally important. So you might be, you might try to get a higher valuation, but then maybe investor will push back to say, okay, I want more control, and maybe it's a good idea to give them more control. In some cases, not a good idea. What I see from entrepreneurs I speak to in Ukraine, is like people are disproportionately concerned about giving away control of the company. I think there are some bad stories, but bad stories are often being widely distributed. It's not like every second investor tries to cheat you and oust you as a CEO and like take away a company from you. It's not the case. Actually, most current investors, like modern investors in our era, try to keep founding CEOs in the company for as long as possible, and was first maybe promoted mostly by Andreessen Horowitz and some other firms. But yeah, I mean, the way control works is that there are different classes of shares. Investors usually have so-called preferred class of shares when the founders have this common stock or common shares, and usually every share will have one vote whenever shareholders need to vote. There might be, so the way American corporate governance works, there are different questions that are being resolved by different votes. There is one vote that is happening amongst all the shareholders, and that's where you usually have to have majority, unless it's written otherwise, to pass certain decisions. And things like deciding, like electing board members, is being made by the shareholders vote. But then you have the board of directors that is more operational, and inside of board of directors you have again voting system where every board member has a vote, and between those two there's also sometimes when investor get preferred shares, it means these shares have some extra rights on top of the common stock that founders have, and usually those are veto rights. For example, investors may veto the change of one of the executive positions. They may veto hiring a new VP of engineering, or yeah, things like that. So if those preferred shares, again, it might happen that preferred shares have different amount of votes. One preferred share votes as two, or one preferred share also might vote as less than one voice. Or founders can have shares that vote like 10 or 100 votes per one share, and that's what is the case in companies like Facebook, where Mark Zuckerberg effectively controls the company, although economically he has less than half of value of it. So it's a really wide topic. There's a great book called Startup Boards by Brad Feld, and another book called Venture Deals by Brad Feld. Brad Feld, amazing investor from Colorado, and investor. And those books are really thin. It's really easy to read. Highly recommend, covering all the topics we're discussing here today: fundraising and governance.
Cool. So are there any mistakes on your road that
A lot.
you need to warn us?
Wow. I mean, I'm challenged by trying to generalize, but then also trying to say it in the way that will be valuable for the audience that doesn't have the experience we had. Yeah, I think the challenge with startup, you're always creating something new, something that wasn't done before you in one way or another. But often you're acting on the models that were used before you. Like if you're creating some new software as a service business, there have been hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of other SaaS companies before you. If you're creating the mobile app, you're creating the e-commerce website, all these things were created not exactly like yours, but the same model. And a big mistake that everyone keeps making, and even us, even us, after we recognize this, a big mistake, we keep making it again and again, is starting to work on something that um, you never done this before, but you think it's kind of trivial and easy, and it's like, oh well, we'll do this really fast, and not talking to other people who've done something like that in that area. Huge mistake, so silly, so stupid, so easy to not do this mistake. Keeps happening over and over again with like probably every entrepreneur I've met, with us included, and really costly, really costly. Another mistake that really costly for us is again, very stereotypical mistake. Um, Putting a lot of effort into building a product before learning if anyone needs that product, or before making any user testing. Like being too confident about your hypothesis about something, but it's always a trade-off. That's the thing. I can speak about these errors, but then one side you have, okay, here's this hypothesis, let's run the tests, let's go talk to customers, let's build an MVP. This is like one side of the equation. Another side is, hey, we need to be really fast. We have only a couple months of cash left in the bank or whatever. We have only one engineer currently in the company. Let's do this really fast, and let's do it right from day one, because then we'll need to spend so much time on refactoring and all the other stuff. So you're constantly between those struggles, right? And balancing them is a big wisdom, but really advice is free. So try to get as much of his advice as possible, and but then again, don't spend too much time networking. Networking is not working. Um, yeah, I think for a young company starting out from Ukraine, what's really important is to have big ambitions, and one of the best potential scenarios is to go apply to YC and get accepted by YC, because YC helps you to accelerate in many areas in your growth and building your product and learning about your customers. They have very systematic, very well-functioning school. If you're not accepted to YC, read all Paul Graham's essays, watch all their startup school videos, read Peter Thiel's book From Zero to One, or his lectures in Stanford on entrepreneurship. So all of these things that are free, everyone can do, read, ask for advice. So many people don't do this. I think that's a huge mistake.
So every startup founder dreams to build a unicorn. Are you one of them?
Sure, yeah.
What's your plan?
I mean, I see how we can become a unicorn in about 4 years.
Can you explain more?
I kind of spoke about it a little bit, but I mean, we're connecting pets to the internet and giving them a voice. We think we really advance humanity's understanding of animals and pets by some of the algorithms we're building, and then when you connect millions of pets to the internet, you basically have platform, and then every other company that wants to do something with pets, they're interested to use your platform to get reach to those people and interact with them. And we're building this platform, as you've seen, and because this is kind of like a new niche, we're not competing with many other companies. We're kind of creating this kind of horizontal platform that is kind of beneficial for everyone, and like everyone is interested in our success, like pet food companies and insurance companies and the pet good companies, services. So that's the current vision. It might change couple year, yeah. The vision is changing, but I think if you have, initially when we were starting a company, we were seeing that there's really big opportunity if you can connect pets to the internet. Like conceptually, that's just Facebook connects people, Uber connects cars. If we can connect pets, that's really important. And I think another thing we saw as an opportunity is you have this really big market, like $70 billion a year in the US, and then that's a market that haven't seen much innovation over the last 30 years, like computers, internet, smartphone, and then 2012, when we were starting a company, you look for something to calm down your dog when the dog is barking when you're not at home. That's how Petcube started. And Alex Neskin, he found this collar for his dog that would hit his dog with current, with electrical current, like electroshock. Something. To calm his down every time the dog barks. So that's like super inhumane. This is barbaric. And that shows you that technology did not develop for pets. So we understood that as a big opportunity to make really beautiful, well thought out, Apple-like products for pets that we would love to use. We thought that, okay, this is market, haven't seen much innovation, market is big, there is a business opportunity here.
Okay, so I guess 1 hour have passed. We gathered here at the offline event, so I guess people from the audience, if you have questions,
Yeah, that would be great.
Please ask us. Yes, so do we have some microphones? Yeah, okay, yeah.
Hey, thanks for talking. I have a question on month-on-month rate compared in the United States versus...
On the left.
No, I'm here.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey. Did you get the question? Do I need to repeat that?
If you can start over.
Okay, no problem. So you did talk about the month-on-month rates, and I suppose that was global month-on-month rates, right? So if you...
Sorry, which rates?
The growth rates.
Yeah.
The month-on-month growth rates
Yeah.
in Asia versus United States. That's what I would be interested in.
Oh, so when I was talking to you about growth rates, I was talking about our software business, and that business is only available for the U.S. customers. So it's all U.S. But I mean, most of our sales in the U.S. So we don't have really data, but compare. Yeah.
Okay, next.
Yaroslav, I want to ask you about how you manage the contacts in terms of the operations, because I understand that you have some kind of pipeline. So what is your methodology? How often you send the follow-ups? Do you send the Petcube products to the investors to engage them? So how do you organize it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, happy to talk about that, but just like the short answer, I guess, is what's really important is the business you have, and like the pitch deck, the methodology is probably maybe, I don't know, not more than 10%. I think it's more like 5%. But like the way we approach it is we systematically keep building our relationships with investors. That's my role as a CEO. I represent the company whenever there's an event. I usually meet those folks. They're usually interested in meeting me. Whenever one of our investors is introducing me to another investor they met, I meet with them. Whenever I meet with investors, I have a Google Docs spreadsheet, and I put their names in there and some notes about, oh, we talked about this and that. He was really excited about this. He wanted to see numbers that are like bigger on this. And they always want to see. They're like usually, oh, this is such a great business. Come talk to us when you're like 10 times bigger and cash positive and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, why would the company need your money then? But yeah, so you have a list of these investors, and sometimes you keep them updated with occasional updates. You can send an email to all of them, or I usually do it very individually. I personally write an email to investor. And then whenever you kind of would start raising new round, you basically put together a short kind of email template that speaks about what's going on. And then you usually you prepare some kind of. Sometimes you prepare a deck. Sometimes you don't prepare a deck. You just prepare a deck to show to investors when you meet them, but not include in your email. And then you email the investors you think that will be interested, and tell them, hey, here's the company, how the company is doing. We achieved such and such milestone. Here are our numbers. Would really like to chat with you. Usually you would choose couple top funds that you think are most likely to invest, and you would go to them, and then you also don't choose funds, you choose partners in those funds, partners who are dealing with your area of business. So one fund might have a couple of partners. One is dealing with hardware, another with software as a service, another with marketplaces, another with biotech, and you don't want to pitch your biotech company to a SaaS guy. What else? Yeah, I mean, I don't think mass emailing investors is a good idea. Try to be personalized and explain why you really want to work with this partner and this fund. I keep hearing from so many founders that they've met with 100 investors. I've probably pitched to over 300 investors over these 5 years, and for us, the fundraising was super painful every freaking time. It was so painful. You talk to 200 people and they say no, we won't give you money, and you know that you need the money, so you feel really bad about that. But yeah, just that's what the job of CEO is, and if your business is in the category that the business is kind of doing well, but it's kind of hard to fundraise. So that's what it was historically for us, and even now, I mean, now we have all these amazing numbers and all that, but the Series B investors' expectations are also pretty high, so it's not super easy. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for finding the time in your crazy schedule. It was awesome. My question is, when your startup is building a product for the US market, what is the right time for a founder or CEO to leave Ukraine and go there?
Yeah, thanks, Max. I think really the sooner the better. I think it's really important for Ukraine to have to be represented in the world by global companies coming out of Ukraine. There is no treason, no #zrada to go outside of Ukraine. It's actually very very good if you can bring capital outside of Ukraine to Ukraine. And the reason why I think some people have the strategy, okay, we're going to build an MVP in Ukraine, and then we're going to test our hypothesis here, and then we're going to scale that to the US. I think that's wasted time for many reasons. One of the reasons is that consumers here are very different from consumers there. So the product you're building here, even if it works here, most likely you will have to build the product completely from scratch somewhere there. So that's one reason why this is wasted time. And another reason is, you are limiting yourself by local understanding of quality, by local knowledge, resource, even fundraising capabilities, all of that. So the sooner you go to the big market that you plan to capture, the better it is. And there are a couple areas where one can potentially start building something out of Ukraine on the Ukrainian market. But I'd really want to see Ukrainian companies starting globally aggressive, innovative companies.
Okay. Do you have some?
Yeah. My name is Max. I have some questions. What do you think about first investments, like angel investments in startup? If they want a big part of company and they invest not very big, but they first and give you inspiration, something like that.
So the question is, what do I think about first investment?
First investments. What about your first investments or something like that?
Yeah, and I guess the question is sometimes like first investors they want some more equity because
Big piece.
because they're first investors, they are first to believe in you. What do you think about that?
Well, look, overall, I think there are multiple ways to start a business, and startup is just one of those ways, and it's a very particular way. It's this playbook called startup. You can also start like some service business that will basically grow from zero by just itself and will not need much investment. And you can start some construction business, and you'll take whatever loans and banks and all of that. Those are different ways to run a business, not even the business models. It's just different ways to run a business. And then if we are here, we're talking about this kind of startup way. So startup way has its own playbook. Founders have super ambitious idea that has potential to become $1 billion company, and then they're raising money from people, they call themselves VCs, and their company might be unprofitable for a long time. Like think about Uber lost $4 billion last year. Their EBITDA was like minus 4 billion, if I'm not mistaken. Tesla lost $2 billion. Like those are startups. They're burning cash like crazy, and that's okay. And they still like raising money. They're still doing good, and they have very, very okay products, right? So that's kind of the startup playbook. And in that startup playbook, to answer your question, which is like the part of that, if a company raises first money and gives away like 30% or 50% of the company is dead for the startup playbook. There are multiple companies, and we're discussing this with I think with Ragnar some time ago. Ragnar is somewhere here. He's an amazing guy. You should meet him. From Estonian community. So anyhow, you have these companies, and their cap table is basically totally screwed. It's like no other investor will invest in a company where 50% or 30% is owned by some little known seed stage investor, and no reputable investor will take more than 20% and the first round of investing. Even 20, I think, is quite a lot. So I think first investors are important. I think it's great to have investors who have experience in investing in venture deals, or angel investing, and then it's great to have investors that other entrepreneurs say they are great. If someone worked with them, says they're great. You should think about investors almost as, as you as founders, you're partnering with like a consulting firm. That's what VCs are, and they provide you capital and advice in exchange for equity. So you are selling equity. You are paying them with your equity, and you expect them to deliver capital and advice. And your goal is just to find like the best investor possible. For many companies, it turns into find the only investor that will invest in my company. So like hopefully if you start with a mindset that you have a really strong business, and if you build a strong business, and then you can choose from multiple investors who want to invest, and then you can choose the best. I mean, for us, I think at the beginning we were a little bit snobbish about, like, internally we were not really willing to take Ukrainian investors' money. And we were really kind of, okay, we need to raise from Andreessen Horowitz and no one else. And I mean, that's good. That's part of our culture. We set really super ambitious goals that seem to be impossible. And then we reach some of them, and like we reach a little bit lower on some others, and we fail on some. But anyhow, eventually we weren't able to raise from American investors. We raised first money from Ukrainian investors, from A Ventures. And those guys were super, super, super helpful. Those guys are amazing. Like, out of 14 million of the disclosed financing we've raised, I think over 70% of that money was referred by A Ventures. it's not they invested, they brought someone who invested. And like amount of advice they gave to us that they were valuable. They helped us to find a recruiter who helped us to recruit some of these top people. And yeah, we were so grateful to Aventures that last year when Yevgen Sisoyev, one of the partners, had a birthday, we prepared to that a couple months in advance. We gathered all the companies that the Aventure invested in, and together we created an unofficial Aventures website where founders were telling about the fund, and we gave it to them as a birthday present, and they liked it so much that now it is their official website. Yeah. So we have you go to Aventures website, there is a video where founders funded by Aventures speak about why they're happy working with those guys. So some investors are so good they deserve to be mentioned as really good investors.
Okay. Hi, thank you very much for your talk. Can you please say a little bit of your time schedule? You told us that you work like 80 hours a week. Can you please say a little bit what are you doing, and do you have procrastination, and how do you struggle with this if you have it?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, fantastic question. I think like some people, because of their pride, they're not willing to recognize that they have procrastination, they have mental breakdowns, they have burnouts, they have all kind of issues that are on psychology level. And I think like as the global kind of community, we're going more and more in a direction where it's okay to recognize that psychology is part of health, and then there are certain things you have to deal with, and sometimes you might need help from therapeutes. I don't know, yeah, consultants, whatever. So, I mean, thankfully, historically, I didn't have like big issues with my psychology, I guess. Like the biggest issue I had was sweating really hard at night. So when you wake up in a puddle of your own sweat, it's not cool. So that was kind of not cool. Maybe in 2014. But I mean, overall, I tend to not stress out a lot, and so some ideas that are helping with that. And regarding your question on schedule, 80 hours is 5 days a week, 16 hours. That should be like normal working day for any entrepreneur. Like, then you have another 2 weeks. 2 days in a week, and then you also have 8 hours that they're kind of sleep or something else. There's actually a lot of room for improvement. Who said it should be 40 hours, right? So there's also this analogy is like if the glass is full, if you put lots of stones in the glass, is the glass full? Yes. If you put more like smaller stones, is the glass full? Yes. You put sand, is the glass full? Yes. And then you put some water, so there's even more space that you can use in that glass. So you can think of your time as something like that. You basically can be like try to organize all of your time the most productive way possible. Or like when you're having like 5 minutes, instead of reading Facebook, read that book on your phone that you want to read, or answer that email. And then like it's helpful to organize your schedule so that you know when you do what. So you have planned meetings, you have planned time for exercise, you have basically planned time for sleep, you have planned time for no plans. Like also important to plan that time. Like for example, Sundays I try to not to plan much, or if I plan something, I plan it on the first half of the day. And then so me personally, I wake up, take a quick like shower, whatever. I start with a bunch of calls with Kiev. I wake up in San Francisco usually. I have calls for an hour or 2 hours, depending on the day, and then usually have a meal during the calls, and then I take Uber to our office in San Francisco, and when I'm in Uber, I'm working. So usually before I'm in the office, I already went through all the emails. So not driving saves you quite a lot of time. So it's basically, for me, it's 20 hours, 20 minutes one way in Uber. So it's 40 minutes, and if you add like things like parking and so on, it's a good hour of productive time that you're working instead of driving and parking your car and looking for parking and so on, and stressing over other drivers. And then I work in the office, might have some meetings scheduled and so on. I like to schedule meetings during lunch, so the lunch time is not wasted. If I don't have meeting during lunch, then I would be reading like something on my phone, usually something work related. And I have my own way of exercising. I dance. So dancing for me is a really cool way to exercise, because I do not only do like physical exercise, and the dance I do is called swing or Lindy Hop. It's a so-called social dance. You dance it in a couple to the jazz music, and you don't need like a constant partner. You just like dance with any random person in a dancing party. So for me, it combines physical exercise and kind of mental recharge. You talk to other people, and your artistic, like unleashing your artistic energy. Every dance is basically like a work of art, and then also like even things like you learn about things like masculinity and femininity from new angle, and I guess you get better in interacting with opposite sex, which is great, especially for engineers. I mean, there is this stereotype that engineers are socially awkward, and there is some truth to that. And then also, it's something like dancing is gives you more kind of public speaking and kind of confidence in front of the audience. So I actually want to make a separate talk about the like dancing for entrepreneurs. Like tell about why dancing is so cool. One of the insights I got from dancing is the faster is the music, the more relaxed you should be. And that's true for dance. If you want to dance a really fast tempo, you should be relaxed, but not like relaxed, but relaxed, but you should be active and like ready for fast reaction. The same I think is true for business. If like the busier you are, the crazier your day is, the more challenges you face, you should be really calm and handle it in a very kind of relaxed way, and only then you will be able to handle and keep handling more and more load. And so yeah, so I think I do about 16 hours of actual work per day, sometimes maybe 14, and yeah, and then maybe 6 hours of sleep in a work day, and I sleep more, maybe 8 or 9 hours, or sometimes 10 hours on a weekend. Yeah, I also try to work maybe 5 to 10 hours on Saturday, and maybe sometime on Sunday, but that's Sunday is more like emails and stuff. Actually, in the US, many people work on Sunday evening. Like that's part of everyone's routine. People catch up by before the week start. So that's part of the culture in the United States. And regarding your question about procrastination, I think what's super helpful against procrastination is like procrastination means you're not For me, what helped is to manage my energies instead of time. So I know that like the good state to be in is to be really excited about the work you're about to do. Like you should be always excited about what you're doing. If you're not excited, think about what has to be changed, why that is the case, and then try changing the activities. So yeah, like when you switch activities even within work, it's less tiring, I guess. And then super important, exercising and food and what you drink. So drinking a lot of water is good. I gave up any alcohol 2.5 years ago. Before that, I was drinking very little alcohol. I was just observing myself and kind of figured that alcohol makes me a little bit less productive, even very little alcohol. And it also decreases the will. So if you think of a human as a role-playing game character, you have kind of the health bar, the energy bar, and you have the will bar. So if you want to change your daily routine, that consumes your will bar. That doesn't consume your energy or health. But there are only so many like decisions or like changes, like stepping out of your comfort zone that you can do or you can carry at any given moment. So also will is something to train. So yeah, I guess that like the recipe, yeah, it's like for me, I would reduce the alcohol, also reduce and then removed coffee completely. And I know it might be hard for some. I loved coffee. I think coffee is great for entrepreneurs. I think if you have high amplitude of highs and lows, what coffee does, it increases the amplitude. If you don't have coffee, your amplitude will be slower and you will be calmer. And then, you know, it's great to have ways to get excited. And there are many perfect ways to do that without any alcohol or coffee or drugs. Things like talking to other people is great, hanging out with other people, and then for me, dancing is amazing. Yeah, I guess that's a long answer. Yeah.
Yeah, so you said that in order to do the work properly, you need to love doing that.
Be excited. Yeah, it's like not just love, but it's like actually look forward to. It's like, wow,
So,
today
like,
I'm gonna do this.
So that means like you like to fundraise money because 90% of the time you do
Yeah.
that.
No, yeah, because you're telling someone about the company you've built and the company you're gonna build, and like all the amazing things you'll do for like millions of people around the world. It's like obviously it's super exciting. Like what is the non-exciting part is when you receive an email that says that has a word unfortunately somewhere in the middle of it.
Okay, we have the last question, and then you can talk with Yaroslav. Yeah.
Alex, thanks for sharing your knowledge. Only one question. Would you be so kind to answer what are the most difficult areas in your attempt to ensure investors that your product worth their investments?
Thanks. That's a good question. So, you know, I think like in every stage of the company, you have very different challenges with investors. When you're on seed stage, your challenge is to prove there is a big market for what you're building, like many people are going to buy. And just saying that the pet care market is big is not enough, because we were just making a camera, so it's not the whole pet care market. Now we're kind of building a platform and so on. So, and then another thing is to persuade investor at seed stage that you and your team and your co-founders are the right people who will be able to do that. Super hard when you're 24-year-old guy from a place called Ukraine, which just had war with Russia pitching to someone in Silicon Valley. Then you have like Series A, and your goal is to prove that it's like seed. Hopefully you built some prototype, you proved people want it. Then stage A, your goal is to show that you're actually able to deliver the business and like scale it. So the challenge is prove how you scale it, show some traction that you're in the seed stage, show that your prototype is working. And it's usually for most of companies, it's almost there. It's like the prototype is almost there. There are some bugs, and we need to, but we're already out of money. So the company goes and fundraises. So that's bad. It's good to fundraise when you're not out of money. It's good to fundraise when you still have a lot of runway, but you already have the traction and things you need. And that's a Series A. And then your goal is also what we were hearing a lot during Series A is that, okay, we think you're building a great company. We see how this will become $100 million company. We are not sure if this will become $1 billion company. So that's why we're not investing. So Series A, like one of the challenges was to show a big vision and how it will become a really, really big company on top of what you already have, what is already working. So yeah, I guess those are the challenges.
Cool. So thanks.
And we have the last question from
Last
Okay,
question.
the
last
last.
question. Thanks, Yaroslav, for your story. You have so much energy to power up everyone in this room and I believe in all the planet. So my question is, getting back to slides and sales, you have mentioned the partnership with the SoftBank in Japan. For every hardware company, it's like tough to enter the Japanese market. Can you make a short comment of how it's going and how it's different from the US?
Yeah, thanks. We didn't spend much resources investing in that. So we only launched there in December, and it took us a little bit more than 1 year to close the deal. There were lots of back and forth. A lot of it was on our side. We had one product, but the first product, Petcube Camera, was finishing its life cycle, and the second product, Petcube Play. So we decided not to certify Petcube Camera for Japan, only certify Petcube Play. So that added delay, and then certification added delay, and then negotiations with SoftBank added delay because it's a big organization. And but I think geographically, every market needs its own marketing. And if you don't do marketing, you should not expect your product to sell just when you make it available for the market. So we have a person in China in charge of, in Japan in charge of marketing, and they have been developing it, but we didn't allocate much of a resource and much of attention. And for us, still, like every dollar or every hour of our attention spent in the US is more valuable than whatever we spend on other markets. So we figured, okay, well, we'll be doing something in Japan, but currently, like the real focus should be the US. So I guess that's the answer. Yeah.
Okay, so thanks a lot for the great time.
Yeah, thank you.
You're allocated. Yeah, also I would like to present our next speaker, webinar speaker. Can we change the slide, please? Yeah, so we are running webinars once, 2 times a month. Next one will be Austin Kibble. This is the guy that mentors us at Conceptor, and he really knows how to build the products that people would love to buy. So yeah, that will be just part of the online webinar. So you just can on July 11th turn on our Facebook page, Conceptor page, and just get his experience. And we'll be talking about how to make a product that people would love and how to do the design thinking and product validation process. Thank you, Yaroslav, very much. And
thank you, everyone.
yeah, that was cool. Thanks.